right. Well, welcome everybody. I am Linda Nellis. I'm the Alumni Services and Engagement Coordinator with the Daniello Institute for Veterans and Military Families. Thank you so much for joining to learn about the CEOcircle program sponsored by JPMorgan Commercial Banking. We are currently accepting applications for CEOcircle, which is a growth stage year-long peer accountability program that invites participants to address challenges and opportunities for their business. The program incorporates peer-to-peer support and insight from national experts during monthly small group virtual sessions and quarterly in-person fly-ins. So today we have prior participants. We have representatives from our partners at JPMorgan Commercial Banking and IVMF program team members to discuss CEOcircle and to answer your questions. So just a couple of really quick housekeeping notes. Please be sure to remain on mute and please feel free to post any questions that you have in chat. There will definitely be time at the end. We're going to have a live Q&A at the end of the session. And at this time, I would like to welcome Chris Carlson, the CEOcircle Participant Manager. He's going to facilitate the conversation.
Thanks, Linda, and welcome everyone. As Linda said, I am the participant manager. I help make sure that the CEOcircle experience is the best it can be. And I've been involved with the program for quite a long time. And in fact, it even goes beyond when it started. That is to say that JPMorgan Chase, JPMorgan Commercial Banking has been a partner of ours for the last 4 years. And before that, we started in Chicago with a little nonprofit called Bunker Labs. And we started CEOcircle to bring people together and to support one another through accountability and support. And so today I want to introduce you to some people involved in the program right now, and they have been for quite a while. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Kevin, and then I'm going to go and ask Kevin to introduce John, and then we'll finish up with Danielle because she's a special case. And each of them, I'm going to ask, how are you involved in the program? If you could just say what you do in the program and your experience and how long you've been involved. I think that helps. And then I think it's also nice to just summarize what CEOcircle is. How would you answer the question if someone said, what is CEOcircle? What's this all about? And with that, Kevin, I'd love to start off with you. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Kahas. I'm located in Chicago, Army vet. I first joined the CEOcircle journey in 2022 during COVID. A lot of drama going on. I was under a lot of stress. I needed a community to reach out to and for help. I was struggling with a lot of issues at the time, business-wise. And that's why I reached out. I joined the program. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. I took a few years off to implement a lot of what I've learned and came back to give back to the community in 2025 as a facilitator. But it just so happened that I've learned so much this past 6 months that I have a whole new agenda post CEOcircle. And what the platform is to me, it's a community that is non-transactional. We're there to help each other. We give and we receive mutually. Everybody there is genuinely invested in the relationship. It's been a really great experience. John?
Let me unmute myself. John Rodford, I'm a retired veteran also after 27 years. I came in November of 2022 as the president of a government contracting company. From there, I liked it so much I came back for a second year, and then apparently I am now back for a third year as a facilitator. And it's been an interesting process to watch the teams grow within your color sign cohorts. It took us till the third meeting the first time to actually start being vulnerable and sharing with each other. And I called it the storming, the forming, norming, and storming phases. The second year we had some alumni and we probably got there on the second one. And I'll tell you, this last group that I'm helping direct has gotten there much quicker. The key to this entire thing is when you're willing to trust people and actually be vulnerable. I would tell you that I would describe CEOcircle as a collection of other people. I mean, everything from somebody that sells cheese sauce to government contracting to you name it, from $2 million companies to $100 million companies that are all experiencing the same problems you have. It's a network of people that have all experienced whatever problem you're having. And if you have it, there's somebody there you can reach out to that is more than willing to help you. And you're going to hear this from the day you start. You get out of this program what you put into it, and there's no truer statement than that. What this has led to is I left working for other people as a president, and I've now started a company, and I'm also working on another startup. Danielle, I just do want to mention something with the JPMorgan Chase people before I introduce Danielle. They're not there to sell you something. As a matter of fact, if anything, they're the greatest resource you have. From finding you somebody that can help or solve a problem for you, or to providing you on advice on financial or banking requirements. They don't necessarily want your business. They just want you to succeed. Danielle.
Thanks so much. We do want your business, but you succeeding is the best way for us to be able to earn your business, right? So Danielle Davis, I'm the Southwest head of diverse businesses in our JPMorgan commercial banking space. And that's a fancy title for I get the opportunity and the privilege to work with veteran-owned, women-owned, diverse-owned, and LGBTQ+-owned companies. And I really help them connect to our ecosystems and resources so that they're able to scale and grow. And I always tell people, if I help you scale and grow, by default, you'll want to bank with Chase. That's just my motto. And basically for CEOcircle, I've been involved for the past 4 years since we've been a sponsor, and we power it through JPMorgan. And basically, I've had the privilege of being a liaison. And a liaison is a fancy title for what John just mentioned. And I am lucky to have Kevin was in my first cohort, and I had John, I believe, in my second cohort. So they both were in my group for the time period that we worked together. And so looking forward to having a conversation with you guys here so that you can learn a little bit more. I think it's an amazing program. It's one of the funnest parts of my job to be connected to veteran business owners, really seeing how their minds work, how they view things from a leadership perspective, and just being able to add and be a trusted advisor to them to make it even better so they can continue to help their businesses thrive. So thanks for having me.
Oh, this is great. It's you're one of the favorite parts of my job, Danielle.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, but seriously, working with this group is easily the highlight of my career. The motivation, the camaraderie, the dedication. I wanted to begin with the words that you just heard, but I do know as I'm listening, there are a lot of terms that you might not recognize depending on your familiarity. So I'm going to hit a couple. I would love your questions, and I'm going to then turn it back to who you just heard from. And I'd love for our panelists to think about some particular wins that would be good to share. And the group, so let's just go through the CEOcircle fundamentally has been referred to as like a mastermind group. There are a couple of other similar models out there, Vistage, EO, there are different, but this one is unique in several different ways. JPMorgan commercial banking makes it entirely unique. Also, and probably most importantly, the military connected aspect. Everybody in the program is either a veteran or a military spouse. And that right there puts a level of trust and accountability that no other program has. One of the other things that I want to clarify, you heard about cohorts, you heard about call signs and liaisons and facilitators. The military community is no stranger to jargon and acronyms and terminology, but let me go through that. The cohort is a year-long program, roughly from November, December to the next year, monthly meetings and quarterly in-person gatherings. within that cohort of about 80 or so, it's gone a little lower, a little higher. There are these smaller groups of about 10 that we call call signs. Within this small group, there are some really amazing bonds that develop. And each call sign is led by a facilitator, somebody to help chase the cats, herd the cats, as it were. And so John and Kevin are currently facilitators. And each call sign, each small group also has a liaison, someone from JPMorgan Commercial Banking. I should not have learned that just before we started today. But they're just to do exactly what Danielle said, to listen, to see how they can help connect you. So just wanted to hit on some of those terms before we circle in on some of hopefully your questions soon. But I'd like to go to some of the wins that you all would like to share. So would somebody like to go first? And if not, I'll lead off with one that sticks out in my mind, especially because I think it was John, you said cheese sauce. Is that right? Well, think about this. I just want to share that one of our members, we have these quarterly fly-ins, and these companies are significant. $1 million is the threshold requirement in revenue, and then it goes all the way up to hundreds of millions of dollars. We've had quite a few, but the mean is around 6 or 7 million. In other words, the majority of the companies cluster around that. And so these are significant companies that are scaling. And we had a member who was going through a really tough time. And after the formal programming ended, asked everyone to gather around. And he shared with them in a moment of incredible vulnerability, something that he was going through, and asked for help. And there was incredible response. And in fact, his business took a huge turn after that. I just wanted to share that and just give a sense of there is a business value to this, but it's built off of that accountability and trust. So with that, I'm going to put someone, I'm going to volunteer someone if I don't see a mute thing go off here, and you know who it's going to be. Yeah, Kevin, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have an interesting story. I was a enlisted soldier, a sergeant in the Army, multiple combat tours, out of the battlefield straight into business, running my business. In my mind, company culture meant paycheck. That was it. And you're good to go. But I was so wrong. I learned that through the CEOcircle. We have this little format where they put you in a hot seat and you kind of brainstorm. And I discovered that, company culture is the reason why I wasn't growing and why I had so much turnover and what was really hurting me. So that was a huge win for me. I spent years building that to this day. It's top priority. So that's a big win for me. And then second win as a facilitator, the EOS programming they have, I dug deep into scorecard creation. Revenue's already up 20% from that huge impact right away, right off the bat. It was just eye-opening. I knew it was important, but highlighting it and talking about it and focusing on it and talking to other folks that have implemented similar processes in their companies, it was just like a aha moment. Like, okay, I got to focus on this. Let's do it. And then in my group, revenue benchmarks being blown away, completely restructuring strategies, forming joint ventures. It's just amazing. The calibration that's going on. It's so cool. People in Detroit working with folks in Chicago and so on. They're just forming all these joint ventures and having a good time. That's an important thing. You do business and you network with people you like. Us all having similar backgrounds, coming from the military community is nice. It's very refreshing.
So, Kevin, I want to follow up on a couple things. First of all, we make this sound like everything's perfect all the time and everyone makes buckets of money, which is true at times. But first, I'd like you to just kind of level set. And we do celebrate these wins, just like you were saying. Every month we get together, people share what is really great. And my next part is I want to hear more about this 20% revenue increase that you had. But let's just kind of level set a little bit. Is it good all the time? Do people share tough things? Just kind of walk through kind of a more realistic description of what you just said to balance it a little bit.
Yeah, so like a big takeaway that I have from my recent experience is listening to the war stories, right? being up all night, worrying about your bank account. Are you going to make payroll? Oh, I'm going to lose this contract. What do I do? Tariffs. How are we going to handle this? Interest rates blowing, skyrocketing. Just a lot of brainstorming. And sometimes you just need someone to text and just unload. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm like really worried about this. I just bought this new build. For example, I just purchased a new location, new business, and then tariffs came. I had to procure all this extra stuff up in advance, and then I had turnover and this and that, and all this stuff going on at once. Like, I just need someone to just talk to. Like, hey, just hear me out. And you don't take everyone's advice, of course, right? You got to filter out everything how it applies to what you're doing. But it's like therapy in a way. Like it's peer to peer counseling with folks that have been there, done that. Just hearing their stories, it's very relatable and it forms that trust. So I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Thanks, Kevin. And I think it's important to let everyone know that trust and accountability goes both ways. And I appreciate what you're saying. That text chain, a lot of the groups have text chain. Danielle, I know your group has a pretty active text chain, and I'd love to ask a little bit more. You actually have been with the program as long as we've had it with JPMorgan. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about what we were just touching on, that there are these great wins, but there are all these difficult times. And how have you seen that, and how have you been able to help navigate that? Either sometimes maybe it's hands-on, but maybe other times it's just your wonderful sense of style and positivity. I don't know.
I think really it's about what John mentioned earlier. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. One of the major things for CEOcircle, for all of the CEOs that are involved, to really get their time and their worth and their effort. If you think about it, as a CEO, you're very busy, right? And so if you take a few hours out of your month to be connected to other veteran-owned businesses, then you should make it worth your time, right? I think the number one thing that everyone should keep in mind is that you want to be vulnerable. So at the end of the day, everything is not all roses. Running a business can run into different issues. And when you're vulnerable and you share, here's the issue that I'm having, and I need help with it, more than likely you're going to find out that another CEO has had that exact same problem or version of that problem. And they'll be able to give you some tools and some methods so that you're able to solve for it. What I do anytime we have a meeting is I'm really intently listening. And from that listening, how can I collect a solution for you as a CEO? Whether that be internally at JPMorgan Chase or my vast network outside of JPMorgan, right? And so I just think it's a matter of, for you as a CEO, you got to be vulnerable. You have to open up. You have to say, hey, here's an issue or a problem that I need help with or would love help with to solve. When you do that, I think that's when your business really grows and skyrockets and does very well. I've been able to see people literally go from certain revenue levels to much, much higher revenue levels because they've taken this program, thought about how to connect with people internally at Chase, thought about how to connect externally with other people. That's another thing that I would tell you when we do these. If you are selected for the program and we do the fly-in forums where you meet 4 times a year in person, or we do virtual calls monthly with your call sign and then with the larger group, start to really work with people that aren't just in your 10 people nucleus group. When you really take advantage of all people that have been a part of CEOcircle, whether it's alumni, because you'll get to see them at a lot of these different events, whether it's the overall 80 plus people that are a part of it, start to get to know those folks, because you'll be surprised at how many synergies you're able to connect that now takes not just your smaller group ethics and ways of being in order to scale and grow, but then now you're taking advantage of a much larger group. And I think that's really the testament to me for how great CEOcircle is, are when I see repeaters. I call them repeaters, right? Like, so they did it for a whole entire year and they want to do it again for another year. And then they're a facilitator. To me, that just shows how great the program is and how it's really helped them in their journey as an owner of a business, a founder of a business, a president of running a business. And so I think it's just amazing. So that's like my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Danielle. I mean, you hit on some really important points. There is a time commitment. These are busy CEOs, and so therefore it has to be worth their while. And what I heard from you is that over the years, you've seen that vulnerability, in other words, letting your guard down, saying, hey, this is tough and this is what I need, is the key to tapping into the other CEO's experience. But almost as important, if not more important, is your ability to say, oh, wow, I think I can actually help somehow. And we do have quite a bit of access to expertise and learning that goes on, but it stems from this vulnerability, it seems, and your ability to help. John, I wanted to kind of marry the two experiences that Kevin and Danielle were talking about by asking, your path has been somewhat different, and talk a little bit to us about how different cohort members have used the experience. We've mentioned a couple times. Kevin said he's 20% revenue up, and other people have been acquired, and other people have decided to change things entirely. Can you talk about your journey and how it's affected where you are and where you're going, as well as any other twists and turns you've seen other cohort members take?
Yeah, I'm going to begin by running that dead horse over with a wheelbarrow or whatever.
Great.
You will not get anything out of CEOcircle if every time you interact, everything's good. Until you share your challenges, you will get nothing out of the program. I've seen people from my cohorts go on to sell their company, and they're now an investment, company. I've seen people that went from $10 million. He's now at 30 and he's on track to get to 100 million. For me, what it told me is I was in a situation as the president of $11 million company when I got there, and I had conditions I couldn't change based on my owners, which led me to ultimately, with the help of CEOcircle, grow and move on to where I'm starting my own company and helping another one start. So it's moved me into not just running an entrepreneurial business, but starting my own and owning all aspects of it, because I saw the flaws and I talked to enough people that I knew I was good enough to fix them. And that's been the biggest growth for me from the program. And I'm probably unique in this group, but I've, been a strange character my whole life. So, but what I'll tell you just real quick, Chris, is it'll influence how you think about things. And what I'll tell you is you mentioned Vistage earlier, Chris, and that's great. It's like 12 people, maybe a dozen, and it costs $30,000 a year. The cost here is some travel, and you're getting your 12 people that you're close with, or 10, but you're also getting 80. And so that's a much bigger network than you think. Sorry for extending my talk, Chris.
Don't apologize, John. And in fact, I was going to jump in to ask you about the conversation that must have taken place with your call sign and others as you were coming to that realization that it wasn't a good fit, or that you. So I'd love to hear more about that, but I just want to emphasize and beat with a dead horse your point is that larger cohort of 80, the big group, so the 8 groups of 10, right? That is another distinguishing factor. And as Danielle had touched on, when we all get together, that's some incredible resources, and then we bring other people in. But John, if you don't mind, I'm curious, how did that conversation go? Did it come out through one of your so we have these call sign meetings, they do follow a format, and did it come out through critical questions? Can you tell us more, or am I pushing too much?
Chris, you were in the room when it happened, so I don't even want to hear it from you.
All right.
I came to the meeting and you've got a series of questions to answer. And my statement began is my company's a mess and I
Mm.
don't know how to fix it, or words to those effects. There might have been some more curse words involved. And that's when I realized it was time to go.
Mm.
And sometimes that'll be it's time to go. Sometimes that'll be it's time to change things, like Kevin talked about.
Mm.
And when you're willing to have that openness with everyone around you, you're going to be amazed at the resources that come to you.
Mm.
So when I decided to walk from my company, I immediately got notes from everybody in my cohort or my call sign. You should have done this 6 months ago. So if you're willing to share that information with the people around you, and then they all rallied around me, and one of them helped me get my current business started.
Mm.
So you'll develop personal relationships. I have several that are going to last a lifetime.
Well, that's amazing, and I guess I'm a little self-conscious that we're setting the bar so high. You're going to increase revenue. You'll have lifelong friends, but this all stems from the courage to say that things aren't going well. Kevin said something in passing that really caught my ear. He said it's incredible to hear the war stories, and he quickly went on to say it was about entrepreneurship. And that's this interesting mix. We have a military connected community that is in another kind of struggle and fight that are supporting one another. And when that camaraderie and that accountability and support comes together, we have these things like someone helping John, or Kevin, you mentioned EOS was something that you really latched on to. And then there's these amazing results. And so I think that that's a real big part of this that I've heard. Kevin, if you don't mind, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your EOS revelation. And then what I'd love to do is go to some of the questions that we're getting in and answer some of those, because I think there's some really interesting details that people want to know more about. But Kevin, so before CEOcircle, you'd never heard of the entrepreneurial operating system and Gino Wickman. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yeah. So I saw it on the agenda. I bought the book, read it. I attended the programming. It was just like a lot of the stuff, I'm familiar with, but
Mm.
it kind of I realized through the help of the community how important it really is.
Mm.
The one that I really latched onto was the scorecards.
Mm.
Measure what matters and disclose this to my team so they know, if they're doing well. Because some thought they were doing great, and guess what? They weren't. I look at the data, I'm like, oh no, man, there's a lot of improvement here. And then when I disclosed this data to them, they turned it around. They just did a great job. But without that information, they wouldn't have been motivated. So I had to, I have to be an influencer. What I've learned from Danielle in our last meeting, being a leader, you're an influencer. You're influencing your people to strive to be the best version, right? To do the best. And just to add about the overall, experience,
Please.
I think what's important is emotional intelligence, vulnerability, and giving. It's a give-get model. The more you give of yourself, of what's going on in your life and what your problems are, the more you'll get, and vice versa. And that's the magic. That's how it all kind of comes together. It's we're all people of service. We want to serve our country. We want to get Uncle Sam his tax money because we got deficits, we got bills to pay. We got to do our part. And that's a part of being a business owner and being responsible and taking care of your employees. That's all top of mind. So I think sharing this experience with folks that have that service background is really helpful and is inspiring, motivating.
I agree. I mean, I've never been around a group of more down to earth, motivated. John, no, I was going to make a joke about it, but we tease, and I'm not going to. John, you are a nice guy. But seriously, that it is no accident that these bonds form. And what Kevin was touching on is at the very core of where CEOcircle sprang from, and a lot of what the IVMF does, and a lot of what Bunker Labs did prior. And that is that there's this gap because of military service, whether you're a military spouse or a veteran, that you don't have the same opportunity to make relationships, network, to access resources. And so this program grew out of that, not only to close that gap, but to create generational wealth. And I think that's what Kevin's talking about. Give Uncle Sam the tax money, but also really creating some value. And I think that that's something that you see day in and day out. I'd love to turn to some of the questions because they're touching on some real fundamental details that we all take for granted. And I'm going to try to just jump in if you have any insight. But I want to start off with one where people want to know, how are the cohorts selected? In other words, the selection criteria. I'd love to hear from everybody what the mix of people has given to the program. In other words, there are requirements. You have to have over $1 million in revenue, raise 5 million, or there's this criteria for growth potential. All of that is an effort to put people in these situations where they can relate to one another. And what I'd love to hear from any of you is, inevitably, you have a $1 million company talking to a $100 million company, but more often you've got companies at similar levels. But I guess the fear could be, well, if I go in and I'm only $1 million, I don't know if I'm going to get out of it what other people who have 5, 6, 11 million. Or the other way, I'm a $100 million company. I don't know, is this going to have anything? The entire point of those requirements is to just make it relatable. Now, there have been some points where the service people who are selling the services or a product, they don't talk things the same language. But I'd love to hear from any of you. What has your experience been in the wide range of, well, let's just take revenue because we're talking about that as a requirement. Has that been something that's come in the way, or how have you seen that come to actually bring value? Go ahead, Kevin.
So the way I view it is, if you're below 20 million in revenue, you're a small business. If you're above 20 million, you're a medium business. If you're, closer to that 1 million mark, you definitely should be in this program talking to those folks that are at that, middle market, right? Because that's the goal. That's the point of growing. And if you're in the middle market and you want to get bigger, talk to the folks that are at the higher tier of that middle market. Everyone has similar stories, right? The business functions are pretty similar, just at size, and learning how to get to that point and meeting these milestones. It's like gold. It's like better than MBA masterclass because these people have done it. And you know what? You get them thinking about things in different ways too. Maybe they haven't really been thinking about company culture as much as they should have because now they're a larger company. So they, maybe take a look at that. So it's very collaborative. A lot of great ideas and a lot of cool thinking, and it's just a great. So I wouldn't be discouraged at all, not at all, because you can go from 1 to 5 real quick, and you can the goal go from 5 to 20. Set it out, hit your milestones, and the community is going to help you. They want to help you.
Excellent. Well, what I'd love to do, Brittany Gibbons is part of the wonderful CEOcircle team at the IVMF, and talking about the application and evaluation. On the one hand, there are these clear markers, right? But on the other hand, there's some language that is a little bit less clear. And so could you just talk about the requirements and the evaluation process?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris, and thanks everyone for joining. My name is Brittany Gibbons. I'm a military spouse and have been working on this program since we launched our partnership with JPMorgan Chase, and I get the pleasure of working with Chris daily and interacting with all these folks. In terms of the application and evaluation process, so Chris already mentioned the first kind of step that you have to get through is meeting the criteria, which is on the website. I also dropped it in the chat. Those are kind of our hard cutoffs for folks. So you have to be a military spouse or veteran leader within your business. And so we define leader as C-suite. We typically lean towards having the CEO, president, like the ultimate leader of the organization joining. We have on occasion had a COO or CFO. It just kind of depends on that team's unique leadership structure. But just so you can relate to the others in the cohort and get that peer-to-peer interaction, we preference the CEO, president, or the ultimate leader of an organization. There's also that $1 million in annual revenue threshold, or at least $5 million in capital raised. So we want to show that you're an established business, you have some traction, and we also will evaluate like future traction that you have in your pipeline. So those are kind of some of the hard numbers that you can detail in the application. In addition to that, we have a lot of qualitative questions that dive into what you want to get out of the program, what you're focused on in the next 12 months for your company, and then also what you can give to the program. So there is very much, as you've heard, and listening to Kevin and John talk about their experience, as well as Danielle, there's very much a give-get in this program. So as much as folks want to learn and grow and bring, tangible ideas to apply to their business, they also want to give and provide encouragement, leadership, and their own expertise to other cohort members. So we certainly encourage you not to just quickly breeze through those questions, because we do take the time to evaluate those, and those can ultimately help us to craft the cohort to make sure it's going to be a cohesive group, and we're really going to be able to help the participant who we choose for the upcoming group. Chris, anything else?
No, I mean, maybe we'll see, because what I'd love to do is open it up to anyone else that's attending that didn't drop their question in the chat. If you want to take yourself off mute, we'd love to hear any questions. First come, first serve, and we'll do our best to answer them. And then I'm going to come back, and I want the panelists just to think of a couple final words, unless there's something they can answer from any questions we get. Does anyone have any questions? Not everyone at once. We have to just...
Yeah, and just want to make sure for the folks who did ask the questions about the qualifications, if you have any follow-up, please chime in.
Yeah, please. Trinidad, I see you're off mute. Would you like to ask a question? Oh, we can't hear your audio. Sorry. It looks like you're quite animated, but I can't hear it. Yeah, sorry.
Try now. See if you have to be in. No.
Sorry.
How about
I feel like...
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it selected the wrong microphone. So
It's all right.
quick question for you. I've already submitted the application back at just shortly after the Edge conference, and I'd kind of like to go back and review the application. Is there a chance for me to do that, or do I need to go in and submit and go there? Because obviously we see some additional growth, and I'd like to update some of those numbers.
I'm going to go ahead and drop my email in the chat, and you can reach out to, and I'll drop Chris's as well. You can reach out to the two of us, and we'll help you resolve that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll make sure the full story is told. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Any other questions? Remember to switch your microphone. I've got a lot of microphones, so you're not the only one. Well, as people build up the courage to ask a question, like Trinidad did, thank you. I'd love to start to go around and just give each of you a chance to add some closing thoughts. I think that we've emphasized the vulnerability, the accountability. You get what you put into this type of a program. We've talked a little bit about the structure, but what would you say to somebody who's watching this and considering maybe this or something else? And I guess what I think might help is there is a commitment. And how would you help that person evaluate that commitment? Because one of the things that we've seen over the years is there are 2 virtual meetings a month. Danielle pointed out, one with your small group, one with a large group, and then these 4 fly-ins all over the country. New York, Washington, D.C., Nashville, Chicago. Those are all places we've been to. So how have you all struggled Kevin and John with the time commitment and the return? And then Danielle, what has your experience been? And if you don't like answering that question, just go ahead and do whatever you want because you're in charge. Anyone? John, you want to go first since Kevin went first last time?
Yeah, I'm spoiled. I'm on year 3. So my question is 2 hours every other week worth a network of 300 CEOs and JPMorgan Commercial Bank, that network for any problem you have or any opportunity you have? And to me, that's a no-brainer.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, it's a no-brainer when you talk about the size of the community, the power of the community. And I do want to put it into context that JPMorgan Commercial Banking is an incredibly generous sponsor, but they use their network to reach out to others. And so we will bring in experts from all over. And so it's not just within their sphere. And maybe Danielle, you can talk a little bit more about that. But I guess I say that to say it follows the commitments that people make. So Kevin or Danielle, you want to follow up on that at all?
Yeah, I would say, what do you have to lose?
Mm.
So at the end of the day, putting in an application for a program
Mm-hmm.
allows you to possibly be chosen and, in my opinion, change your life personally and professionally.
Mm.
What do you have to lose
Mm-hmm.
to apply to the program? That's how I view it. As far as business owners, like really looking at the time commitment, it is a time commitment. I would tell you that you want to be focused and involved when we do have the meetings virtually and in person, so that it can be worth your time overall. And I just look at it like, hey, what do you have to lose? Just apply. That's my whole thing. I've told, I don't know how many different veteran-owned businesses that meet the minimum criteria to apply, and they have, and whether they are chosen or they are not, they always tell me, if I don't get picked this time, I'm going to do it next time. You have nothing to lose, right? It's just something that's going to be able to enhance your leadership pattern as you're running and focusing on a company. So I just think you have nothing to lose. Just go ahead and apply.
That's great. It's great advice. Thank you. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd also add, if you're not ready, don't apply because we're all busy. Everyone's making a big effort to make this work for the community. And if you're just not in the right place, then, maybe next year. Also, if you're not good on networking or you don't understand these concepts very well, do some chat GPT on it, how to use, how to strap in these skills, because networking is important, not just with your own group, but the whole community, because that's where you'll really gain some big wins. So that's all I have to add.
That's great, Kevin. Thank you. And you hit on the networking, and I just like to add that there are many different personality types. Everybody's not loud and gregarious like John. Some people are quiet and thoughtful like Kevin. So networking, yes, but they do, the commonalities draw people together. The membership in the military connected community, but also the different industries. People just come up and say, hey, I heard you talking about this. So being open to that. But I really appreciate Danielle's comment paired with Kevin's is, why not apply? Well, be honest with the commitment once you do apply or once you do make that decision, because that's the one thing that we really ask of all the participants, that if you commit and join, that you follow through. We don't charge $30,000. You pay for your travel, you pay for your expenses. But in exchange for that, it's the time. So it's the time that's invested in other people's time. So.
And just to clarify,
yeah, please.
You have nothing to lose, like Danielle said. If you're ready, go for it. Do it 100%.
No.
You have a lot to win.
No, it's very, very clear in the sense that you have nothing to lose, but it's a very significant commitment and return. And we've heard that several different ways. Brittany, is there anything that you'd like to add that we may have? Oh, do you want to add something more, Kevin? Yeah, go
one
ahead.
thing, what I really enjoyed from it too, the program, is that, you're running your business, you got your to-do list, you know what your priorities are. But when you have your meeting with the group, you disconnect from all that. And you start thinking about other things that you weren't even thinking about, so it helps you kind of reassess your world, right? And make sure that all your vulnerabilities and contingencies are in place. So that's also been really helpful too. With the
That's
whole
great.
tariff thing, I wasn't even thinking about tariffs, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I got to procure 6 months worth of medical supplies now because of this, because if I don't, it's going to be, 30% more expensive or 150% more expensive. Who knows? But in the meetings and as we were talking about this, I'm like, I got to get moving on this. I wasn't even thinking about it at the time. So, and that really helped me out too. So there's a lot of cool things that come from it.
That's great. Thank you. Brittany, anything that, we've heard from the firsthand accounts of our cohort members and our great liaison, one of many. There have been about a dozen of them or so, Danielle, I think so. Yeah. Anything that you think is important to add to any of our live viewers or recorded
Sure.
viewers?
I just want to call out that I did drop some resources in the chat. You are welcome to reach out to myself and Chris if you have questions about the program or other resources at IVMF. We do have a few other resources for growth stage businesses. If you aren't sure about the commitment yet, you can always check out Veteran Edge. Next year, it happens in March every year in Dallas. So that's a great resource for this stage of business, and you'd meet a lot of CEOcircle participants, past and present, at that event. And I want to say a big thank you to the panelists, as well as our partners at JPMorgan Commercial Banking. They've been with us in this program, this new iteration of the program, for the last 4, almost 5 years. We're really grateful for their investment. It's certainly not just a sponsorship, but they really do mobilize all the resources for the participants in CEOcircle. And we're very grateful, and we see the impact of our combined forces together. So thank you, Chris, for moderating the conversation.
Yeah, you bet. It is fun, and I truly do enjoy it. Kevin, you thought of something else?
Yeah, I just want to drop one more plug. If you're in the middle market and you're not with JPMorgan Private Bank, you're missing out big time. I just discovered this cycle too. I'm joining the private bank. They have so many resources. It's just so incredible. So they're a partner, and they can transform your business, and they're the biggest bank in the world. We'd be lucky to be banking with them and looking out for you. So it's a great resource. I've had a great relationship with them over the years, and I bank with them too. So
that's great, Kevin. Thank you.
Kevin.
Well, Linda, I see you took yourself off mute.
Well, if anybody doesn't have anything to add, I just want to thank everybody so much for your time. It was so informative. Can't thank you enough. And please just keep in mind that applications close on June 13th. So if you are interested, make sure you apply, and you'll all be receiving an email later today with the recording. So if there's nothing else, then we will wrap it up here.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thanks everyone for attending, and please reach out if you have any questions. And thanks again, panelists. You guys are great. You too, John.